Hello and welcome to Enduring Journey to Bliss. Hope you're all doing well. My name is Deanne, and today I am going to be potting up this basil that I started with all of you. I took cuts of this plant of basil here that I purchased at the grocery store. I took cuts off of it and I put them into a small size mason jar. And as you can see, there's quite a few root growth that's happened. I might have left these in a little too long because really you only want the roots to be 2 to 3 inches long. And some of these are maybe 4 to 5 inches long. But I'm still going to transplant them into soil with all of you. My basil plant, mother plant, she's gotten quite tall. So there she is. So I will be cutting her down a little bit today. I'll probably cut down to this. See if I can move leaves out of the way. I'll probably cut down to this leaf node right here because it has new leaves right here growing on both sides of that leaf node. So I'll probably cut that far down. But for right now, I want to show you what I'm going to be using for my soil. I am using a organic soil. It's called Fox Farm is the brand that I'm using. And I went ahead and I kind of pre-measured it out. And so that's the Fox Farm. And then this little container is perlite. And so basically I measured out 2 of that container of my Fox Farm organic soil and 1 container of the perlite. The perlite is going to help with drainage so that the soil does not become overly soggy, and it gives the roots a good chance to get the oxygen that they need as they're growing. So I'll go ahead, and I wanted just so that you could see what I was measuring, how I was measuring. I'll pour the perlite in there. The other ingredient that I'd like to add to this mix is worm castings. I'll move this for a moment. I'll bring this up here so you can see the bag. So this is just some worm castings. This particular brand is Earth Science. I don't think the brand is as important as the ingredient of the earthworm castings. So I will put some of that into my mix. Let me pull this back up a little bit. I will move this. I'll put my little container that I'm going to mix in back up here. Since it is transparent, I'll put it like that. I'm going to use the same little container that I measured everything with, but I'm only going to put about half of the earthworm castings. So I'm going to pour those. I know this is going to be right in front of you, sorry, but I'm going to pour that in. And I want about half. All right, so I'm not sure that you can really see that, but that is just about half of this container. And I will pour that on top of there. And now I'll just give this all a real good mix so I can mix it all up nicely. Just giving it a stir with my hand. You don't need any special tools or anything like that. Just mix it up really well. If you find any pieces like that, kind of give them a little pinch and break them up. Okay, so I have more than I need for this particular session, but I can always save this in a Ziploc baggie and it'll be on hand for any other plant projects I might want to do. So one of the things that you should do, especially with basil, is you should moisten the soil before you add the plant to the soil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out, this is the little pot I'm going to be putting the basil in. So I'm just going to measure it out, the amount that I want. And we're going to go with that amount right there. Yeah, I think that's a good amount. So now what I can do is I can move this down off the working table area. My apologies, I forgot to show you that I'm actually going to do this in a self-watering pot. So I put the soil back in the mixing tub. So this is a self-watering container. I'll be able to monitor the amount of water through this little window on the side here. And for self-watering, you put a piece of cotton, twine, or rope through the pre-drilled holes. Now you could probably make this at home yourself if you've got some plastic pots that can fit into each other. And so you put, or I put, you could do it the other way probably, but I put the loose ends into the water and I put the other end in the soil. And once I fill this up, I'm going to pull this up about like that. When I pull it up like that, this will still dangle into the water. And this will provide moisture to more of the soil than it would if I pulled it down tight like that. I hope that makes sense. So now I'm going to add my soil. I'm going to pull this up, and now I'll add the soil. I'll move this. Actually, I'll put this over it because I don't want the soil to fall out. Okay, hold on just a second. All right, so essentially, here we have the two pieces that are going to dangle down into the water. I'm going to hold on to those so they don't move when I pull this up. And then I have the looped part right up here in the soil, in the media that I'm going to be growing this in. So that's a little too high because I don't want it to be higher than the rim of the pot. So I'm going to pull that down just a tad by grabbing these two at the bottom, giving them just a bit of a tug. You can see it's going deeper into the soil. And so now it's down in the soil. You can see it right here. And I have these nice long pieces so that when I put it into the self-watering container, those will be in hopefully you actually see that maybe through the window, but those will dangle into the water. They'll be dangling down into this water basin. So I need a little bit more dirt, but before I add any more soil, excuse me, I'm going to go ahead and add these lovely rooted basils that I took off of this mother plant over here on the side. Yeah, so, and I do have a video that shows how I did that. and I have a playlist that I've created. So I almost missed a step. I need to slow down. My apologies. When you do basil, this soil should be moist before you put the basil plant in it. So for my water, I've got some water in this little watering can. And before I put that on my soil, I need to condition the water. I thought I brought it in the room with me, but I must not have. Let me go get my API stress coat. Hold on. All right, my apologies. So whenever I am getting water, I do get it from my tap. I use this API stress coat. It's the same thing I use in my fish and shrimp aquariums whenever I am doing a water change. It gets rid of anything that could cause damage, such as chloramines or chlorine or anything like that. So I keep a bottle of it in here with a little eyedropper just for convenience sake for the plants. For the fish, I use it straight out of the bottle, and I use the cap on top of that bottle to measure the amounts I'm putting in the water for my water change. So this is maybe half a gallon of water that I'm going to add this to. So I will just count 4 to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's plenty. And that will help condition the water. And I'll just give that kind of a little swirl around. I did not bring my spoon, but that's okay. It's not an exact science. And so what I want to do is I want to moisten this soil. And since I have a self-watering container, I'm just going to pour it right into this like that. And I'll let that soak down. And I can probably show you here on the self-watering container. It will start to give me the water line, which right now is right here. And I could fill it as high as here because these two little strings, and they are wet. You can see that they are reaching far enough into the water. And the water, of course, is down there mixed with the soil that fell through the holes. So that's what the self-watering container, the convenience that brings. As you can see, if you need to add water or not. Of course, the plant's going to tell you that as well if you monitor your plant itself. And add a little bit more water so that my soil is nice and moist before I add my yeah, that's excellent. That's very good. And now I can look at adding my basil that I have started in water. So I'm going to pull this out of this container, and I'm going to see if I can separate them. 1, 2. This one we're not going to keep. My trash is over on the side over here. 3, 4, and 5. So I will go ahead and I'll just use my finger and I'll come down into this soil and I will place my little started basil plant pretty deeply because those roots are pretty far on that. This one I'll come on this side. Just using my finger, I'm going down into the soil, making space for the roots and the stem. You go just a tad deeper. And there we go. Beautiful. And kind of bring that soil around it a little bit. This one has much shorter root base, but we're going to put it in and we're going to hope for the best. Put her right there. Okay. And this one does not have quite the mass of roots or as long as the two big ones there. This one I'll put on this side. Again, I'm just using my finger, pushing down into the soil, getting a nice hole, and then I kind of push the soil up against the stem that I just put in there. And then this one, she has pretty long root base as well. A good way up the stem. So this one I'll try to put in the center. I'm going to take it out of the little water container just so that I can kind of see what I'm doing. And I'll put this one in the center of the pot. Oh, I guess I need to move you down. My apologies. There we go. So I'm going to put this one in the center of the pot. Okay, so now I have all 5 of those in there. They're kind of in the shape of a 5, like on a, you know how dice, they're kind of in that shape of 5 on the dice. Now I want to go ahead and moisten some more of my soil that I mixed up with the perlite, the worm castings, and the organic frog. And since this has moisture in it, I'm going to go ahead and put, since this has moisture in it, I'm going to just put some in here to moisten it. I'm going to use my hand just to kind of swirl it around, get that soil, perlite, get everything moist. And let's see, I think I want a little bit more. I'm just going to dump all that I had in there into this. Continue to play with it. Think about when you were a kid making mud pies, maybe. Anyway, I'm sure there are other ways to do this. And you might have an actual greenhouse set up at your place or some other way that is easier for you. And so I'm just going to take my little pot here and I'm going to take this moistened soil out of here. And I'm just going to put it in around. I'm too high. I'll set it back down here. So as you can see, there's kind of like a shallow spot right here. So I'm going to put soil. Nice damp soil. I'm going to bring that back up tall. Let's come up around here. This one is right here on the side. And this one. Typically when I'm doing this kind of thing, I'm not doing it on a camera, so this is kind of a learning process for me, to be quite honest. That one needs to go over a little bit. This one will be okay right here. Yeah, she should be fine. This guy needs to stay more in the middle. Put a little bit more of this soil that I've moistened into here. And just maneuver it around again with my fingers, push it around in the pot where I can feel that it's a little bit more shallow. And then once I get all done with this, I will go and rinse my pots, wash my hands up, and show you the final product. Oh, that's nice. Push that in there. Yeah, I think it's doing pretty good. So far, so good. Now, if you use dry soil and you put those wet roots in the dry soil, your chances of decimating drying them out, dehydrating those roots is probably like 95%. Versus you take wet root out of water and you put it in moist, damp soil. That's what the plant roots are used to, damp, right? They've been sitting in water all this time. And so they will take to that much easier, theoretically, than they would to dry soil as I'm putting them in here. And I'm pushing this down because you want good contact with the soil and the stem and roots of this plant. Get the ones in the middle. And yeah, I think I am done with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stop the camera. I'll go clean up everything a little bit here, and I'll be right back, and we'll continue. All right, I went in and I cleaned up the pot. Tried to clean off some of the leaves without causing too much damage. Give it a little bit of a clean off. There's still some on some of the leaves, but as you can see, these, all 5 of these, we've got one, 2, kind of a smaller one here. I'll get that leaf out of that soil. 3 is in the middle. We'll spin it. 4 is on this side, and 5 is another small one right here. It also kind of got its leaf buried. There we go. So yeah, everything is in there. I've cleaned it up a bit. And I need to add more water because I dumped the water out because I had used this to mix up the soil. And I was adding more moisture to the dry soil. So I'm going to put my basil into its self-watering container. I'll set it right here. And let me see if I can put this down, kind of like that. And I will see if I can maybe zoom in. Maybe. So that you can see the self-watering container portion as I'm filling it up, hopefully. Maybe not. Trying to get it so the light would shine on it. It's hard to get the camera to... So we'll see if that'll show as I'm pouring in the water. Again, the water, I'm using my filter tap water, but then I add the API stress coat to it. And I'll go ahead and start adding water from the top across everything I've just planted. And hopefully you'll be able to see the water level begin to rise in the little window. I don't want to go too quickly. So I'm not sure that that's actually showing on the screen. But the water level is now right there. I think I'm going to make this smaller and take you off the little stand. And hopefully maybe the light will be better. There. Yeah, so the water level is right about there. Hopefully that is coming through. And my soil is nice and moist. And I am going to let this plant rest. I'm going to put it in the exact same place it was growing in my grow space here. It was on the top shelf. It was on the top shelf right up here next to some of my orchids. There's a beautiful Oncidium dancing lady in bloom. And here is some beautiful Cattleya blooms. There's too much backlight. But that's where the basil, when I cut it and put it into the small container. This is where it was sitting. It'll continue to sit there. Okay, we'll come back down. I'll lift my camera stand higher. Put you back on here. And now I'd like to work on the mother plant. Essentially, this is the mother that I took those cuttings that we just planted together. I took those plantings. I took a look back at my YouTube videos, and it appears to me that I took those cuttings on or right close to December 17th. And today is January 4th. So that's maybe 2.5, almost 3 weeks for me to go from cuttings with no roots to those roots that you saw earlier in this video as I started to do my repot. So this mother plant, I have to hold her down. She's gotten really tall, a little bit leggy. So I'm going to go ahead and cut some of her down. You typically don't want to cut more than 1/3 of the plant because that can cause too much stress to the plant. So I'm going to go ahead and get my shears that I have and my isopropyl alcohol. I always use my little indoor houseplant Fisker shears when I'm working with my houseplants, my orchids. I use isopropyl alcohol. I keep it in a little spray container in my growing space. And I need to get a little cotton swab. And I will spray cotton swab with the alcohol. This is to sanitize my Fiskers. And then I just, give them a nice cleaning before I start cutting and working with this mother plant that I still have growing. Okay. So we got that. I'll kind of wave these because you want them a little bit dry. So I'll kind of wave my clippers to help them dry. I do have a fan going in my growing space. I always have that going. It helps to have good air circulation. So we're going to take a look at the mother. And so right here is where I took one of those cuttings that are now in the pot that we just did together. So this is a good healthy stem all the way down still. It's a good strong healthy stem. And I am going to remove. So here's where I cut. Here's a growing node. I'm going to keep that one. And I'm going to come up. And I think I'm going to, goodness, I think I'm going to cut right above this growing node right here. I'm going to make my snip right here. And there is the snip. Now this, hopefully, is going to continue to fill in, bush in, because it has these leaves growing. I'll turn this right at the node. You can see the two big healthy leaves, and each side has smaller leaves. So theoretically, my hope is that will continue to fill in. I'm going to do the same on this stem right here. I'm going to come right above that. I'm going to lay that down. And I will continue to come around. This one I'm not going to touch. This one's much too short. I'm not going to touch. This one, much too short. I'm not going to touch. But this one is nice and tall. I'm going to cut right there. Come on. I'm not quite getting it. There we go. So now that one is cut off. And you can see, here's my cut. Right there's my cut. Of course you can't see. Right there's the cut. And it's got right about at that node, it's got new leaves growing here. And it has a main leaf there and new leaves there. So let's continue to look at this and see if I want to cut anything else. I think this one I'm going to take down as well. I'm going to take it down to there. I'm going to take off this leaf. It's yellowing. You can't see it. Let me move this again. This leaf, if you look at this leaf and then you look at this leaf, you can see the difference. This one is yellowing. I'm going to take it off. Give that a snip. It'll go in the trash. I'm going to spin this around. Look at other leaves. This one can go at this point. Let me see. This has a little bit of leaf damage, but I'm going to keep it because the part that is not damaged is still providing energy through its photosynthesis to the stem, roots, and these new leaves that are developing. So I'll leave it for now. And I think I'm done with my cutting for today. Now, I'll take you down off of here. So from some of the plants that I cut back 2.5 weeks ago, the remaining stems turn brown. And that can happen. And so I'll be removing these. But other stems that I cut, like this one here, beside it, it stayed nice and healthy. Not only did it stay healthy, but it branched right where I cut it 2.5 weeks ago. So I'm going to put you back on the little stand. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take out these. These are doing nothing for any of the plant, the root or anything. They're just going to possibly draw in bugs, possible fungus, things like that. And I don't need that or want that in my basil. And this one needs to go too, along with this one. And so now, if we take a look, I think I have all of the, I'll take those out too. I think I have all of the brown that was not doing anything removed. This one is a little bit brown. That's probably damage from the store that I didn't even notice, because that happens when I purchased it. But this plant, I will go ahead and I will keep it right where I had it before. And we'll see how the mother plant continues to do. Now, I washed this when I stepped away for a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start exchange oxygen and things like that. So typically when you do a start, you want to remove at least a good portion of the bigger leaves. These can all go in my salad, like I mentioned. I think I'm going to remove that as well. And a little bit of this one right here. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And then all of this that I just removed is going to get tossed into my salad today. So anyway, I'll set that aside. So for my little fresh cuts there, I'm going to use my water. And I'm going to, it's already been treated with the API stress coat. I don't want to add fertilizer or anything at this point. You just want plain water for a start like this. And I'm going to go up all the way up to those leaf nodes. And these 3 little starts will hopefully in another 2-3 weeks we'll have nice root growth on them as well. And I may be able to start another basil pot of basil. So here's the mother plant. She's been cut down. There's the mother. I'll push her back, but hopefully you can see. I'll lift you up. She has been cut down. And here's the little babies. And I'll grab the other one. And there is my new potted basil that I did the starts. It does take it a minute to transition, so it may start to wilt a little bit, things like that. But because I put the wet roots that were growing in water into a nice damp soil base, it will hopefully help the plant transition. It's going from very wet to nice and moist, and not very wet to dry soil. You then would add water to the dry soil. Well, the soil has to soak up that, so the roots really aren't going to get it.